Kumlan and Ablat Gemara, Chedesh Tammuz. We are in Daf Samach Aleph Amud Aleph, the 6 lines on the top of the page, the 2 dots. So we said in the Mishnah that each there's 3 times that you sprinkle blood. One inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, once against the Kapiris, lands on the floor, then once in front of the curtain, lands on the floor, and then by the Mizbeach Hazav, the golden Mizbeach. And then we talked about that if in the middle the blood turned over, spilled out, what the procedure is. But every single room or every sprinkling is considered a separate entity altogether. So if you completed the sprinkling in the Kodesh HaKadoshim and then something happened in the Heichel, you don't have to go back to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you just repeat the exercise in the Heichel. And so, says the Gemara, we learned, it says the Pasuk, the es Migdash HaKodesh, that he finishes off the kapara of the Kodesh. What's that referring to? So we're going to say that what are all these kaparas for? What are all these kaparas for? So we say, it says the Pasuk, that is the blood that we sprinkle in the Beis HaMikdash, inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That is to atone for somebody who became Tameh. We learned in Gemara Shavuos that in order to bring a carbon, you had to know you were Tameh before you did anything wrong. You knew you were Tameh, then you forgot, and you walked inside the Beis HaMikdash or something, and then you remember, then you bring a carbon. What happens? You knew you were Tameh, you forgot, and you did not remember that you became afterwards, that you were Tameh, and you just didn't recollect even afterwards that you walked the Beis HaMikdash while you were Tameh. So it's called, there's no Yediyah B'Seif. So then we say that this what takes place in the Beis HaMikdash is going to be a chaper of it. So we said over here, now it's what takes place inside the blood that you sprinkle inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, takes care of that. Oyel Moyed, the Oyel Moyed, the Heichel. So the Pasuk Chippas Mikdash Kodesh, and it says Es Oyel Moed Esem Mizbech. It highlights each one separately. So the Oyel Moed, that's referring to the Heichel, that someone became Tamei while they were in the Heichel. And I guess the only way that the only person in the Kodesh HaKadoshim must be the Kohen Gadol, that he didn't realize it was Tamei, because who else would be in the Kodesh HaKadoshim? We have other issues then. And Mizbeach Kemashmoy, Mizbeach means literally a tumah that occurred while the person was standing on Mizbeach. So it seems the Mizbeach is not as holy as the Heichel, but it's holier than the courtyard. And Yechapet Elu Azaras, the somebody was Tamei was standing in the courtyards, HaKoyanim, and then the Koyanim we're talking about is Kemashmon, literally, and that's literally the Koyanim, Am HaKol, the rest of the Eden, Eli Yisrael, Yechapet Elu Alavim. The Levim go with Eden, Hushvu Kulu Chapora Achas. They are all the same when it comes to the last Yechaper that includes Koyanim, Levim, Yisraelim. Now we know, as far as Tumah is concerned, Adam brought a bull to atone for all the Koyanim, and we brought that Seir Hachatas. We brought the Seir, that's what's for all the Yisraelim. So we're not together. We have 2 separate karbanos. The Koyanim have their own carbon for Tumah, and the rest of the people have the other carbon for Tumah. So when we say here now that Kohen, Levim, Yisraelim, they're all joined together for Kapara, they all have the same carbon. We're talking about not this. We're talking about the vidui that you said when they tossed the goat off the cliff. They did not say vidui when they did the Seir Hachatas, but they did say vidui by the Seir HaMishtalech. So the Seir Hachatas was for Tumah. The Seir HaMishtalech, the vidui they said then was to atone for all the sins of Klal Yisrael. So they all equal in one kapara. Everyone gets forgiven by the goat that they sent off the cliff. All other sins, it was the vidui by Seir HaMishtalech that takes care of that. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon says no. Rabbi Shimon says that all the way through on Yom Kippur, the Kohanim are separate from the rest of the people. Not only for Tumah, but also the Tumah is the sprinkling of the blood. But he says that the vidui that was said by the par was to take care of all the sins by the Kohanim. And the Seir, or the other activity, was only for Yisraelim. The Tumah was the blood inside, and then the Seir Mishtaleh, the vidui is for the Eden. They kept separate throughout. So Shiva says, Kishem shedam masir hanase b'fnim, just like the blood of the goat that was done inside. Mechaper al Yisrael b'tumas migdash v'kedosh. When it comes to tumah, we have our own carbon that takes care, that atones us for our tumah, at least until we remember they became tameh. Kach, so too, dam hapar, the blood of the bull, mechaper al hakoinim, the blood of the bull atones the koinim b'tumas migdash v'kedosh. So right, when it comes to tumah, everyone agrees with two separate kavanas. There they have the bull, the koinim, and the rest Eden are from the seir. So that's when it comes to tumah. And just like it's the vidui that was said with the seir hamishtalech that forgives the Eden for all their avedas, kach vidui shopar mechaper lakoinim b'shar avedas. So to the vidui that Aaron HaKohen said on his part, that atoned for the rest of avedas for koinim. So we across the board we were separated the koinim from the Eden. So that's one brayso. So in our Mishnah, we talk about that what happens if the blood spills out in the middle. Then if you have to go back to the beginning or you just continue where you left off. So the brayso will continue. Turn on what we learned. It says the pasuk v'chila mechaper es hakodesh, when he finishes forgiving for the kodesh. Zeh lifnai lifnim. That's talking about lifnai lifnim. We were talking now about sprinkling the blood. So that's what you sprinkle inside the kodesh HaKodashim. Oil moyed zehechol. That's what you sprinkle by the parechis. And mizbeach kemashmoy. And the mizbeach is literally melamed shekulan kapora v'nasvos. From here learn out that each activity of sprinkling is separated from the rest. Because the Torah highlights these three. That means if the blood spilled out by the parechis and you have to do it again, you don't have to go back to the Kodesh HaKodashim and do it again. You just continue for the brachas. Mikan Omru, from here we learn out that nosan miktzes matana shebifnim. So if you let's say you poured some matanas inside the nishpech, and in the middle hadam, the blood suddenly spilled out. Yavi dam acha, you bring more blood. The yascha betchilas matanas shebifnim. You start again from the beginning. Mekan Amru Rashi says it's not going on this part because Mekan Amru goes on the first part, which basically is that if you completed the sprinkling of blood of Kodesh HaKodashim and then you walk into the Kodesh and there you spill out the blood, Mekan Amru, you don't have to go back to the Kodesh HaKodashim and repeat the exercise. You just continue from each sprinkling is a separate mitzvah. And now there's another din. What about in the middle of the sprinkling? Suddenly the blood spills out. You have to start again from let's say you're up to number 4 in the parechis. You have to start again from the beginning. Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Shimon, they disagree. They say, you only continue from where you stopped. You don't have to go back to the beginning. If you're up to number 4, let's say, out of the 7 that going down, you just continue to number 5. What happens if Gomras Matanas Rishnim, let's say you completed the Matanas in the Kodesh HaKodashim, this is what we started saying in the beginning, and the blood spilled out. This is what Mekan Amr is referring to. Then Yavi Damachi, bring new blood, and the Yaschel Betchil Matanas Shveichel, now you start Nehechel. Nothing makes the matanas shebehechel jadam. You put some matanas nehechel and the blood spilled out. Yavi damachirin other blood. The yaschel l'tchila behechel. So the mekan amru, because we know that each room is a separate mitzvah. If the blood spilled out, you just start from there. Now, Rabbi Shimon says you don't have to start again in any room. Whatever you're up to, you continue from there. What about Goma Matanas Vehechel? You completed the Matanas and Hechel and then Vinish Bechadam. You did right too. You did the Kodesh HaKodashim, you did the sprinkling in front of the Parechis. Now you have to go to Mizbeach Hazov, dab the 4 corners, and then sprinkle on top of the Mizbeach. What happens while you're standing by Mizbeach Hazov, Vinish Bechadam, the blood spilled out? Is Yovi Damacha, you have to bring more blood, which means you have to shut down the animal. The Yaschil, Betchila, the Matanas Mizbeach. You start again from where? The beginning of the Mizbeach. You start here, you don't go back to the previous ones. What about you started it? Nothing makes you started a little bit and then it poured out. Yovi Damaschar, you bring other blood. The Yaschil Betchila, you start again. And so they're basically having the same argument, but we're going through every one of the 3 exercises, whether it's Kodesh HaKodashim, Kodesh, or Mizbech, it's always the same. What about Gomer Matanas Mizbech? What about if you completed all the matanas of the Mizbech, you dab the 4 corners and you sprinkle on top of the Mizbech, and then v'nish bechadam, the blood is spilled out. Now, the next activity would be, remember the leftover blood, you pour on the Yisoid, and the outside of the Mizbech, you go on the western side, according to the other opinion we learned, we had other opinions, and you pour it down there and let it just run off. What about the blood spilled out before you had a chance to go to the pour on the base of the Mizbech? Everyone agrees, that is not detrimental to the Avodah. Even though we had a few days ago that we said, according to Rabbi Yehuda and Nechemia, everyone agrees that Shirayim, in fact, it was Rabbi Yechon who said it, everyone agrees that Shirayim is Ma'akiv. So when we say over here, David Hakka, we mean not everybody, we mean that Rab Shimon and Rabbi Lazar and Tanakama, they all agree that it's not Ma'akiv. But before, Nechemia said it is Ma'akiv. Rabbi Yehuda says it is Ma'akiv. So what's going on here? How could one of them says you have to repeat all the sprinklings in that area, and the other one says you don't have to? Says the Gemara, both of the mikra chadosha they dash in the same pasuk. It says in the pasuk midam hapar. It says in the pasuk midam hapar. Midam chatzas hakipurim achas b'shana. It says the word midam achas hakipurim. From the blood of the Chatas HaKippurim once a year, right? So it says the word achas there. What does that mean? So what is that mean? Sabar Chatas achas amargilach. He darshans bedam Chatas achas b'shana. Put the word achas with the word Chatas. Chatas means one carbon. If you, let's say, are up to number 4, sprinkling, and then the blood spills out, so you got to shecht another animal to get the blood. So now you're going to have 2 kabbanas for the same sprinkling. You can't have that. Chatas achas. We put the word achas with chatas, 1 chatas, and therefore you have to start again. The achas l'mayla v'sheva l'mata. However, Rabbi Shimon say the word chatas here doesn't mean chatas. It means chitu yechud. 1 kapara. I don't want you to double up on the numbers. I want 1 lamaila and 7 lamata. If you did 3 and then the blood spilled out, just continue. Because if you're going to do it again, you're going to have more than the 7 sprinklings. Chitu. So we dash the word chatas is not the animal itself, but chitu the kapara. Chitu achas amata. I want 1 kapara. Lo yishnei chitu, not 2. Tanya, we learn similarly. Amar Rebbe said made a comment. Li chilik Rabbi Yaakov belugin. And by what do you call it? By a mitzvah, bring the number of kabbanas, and you also have to sprinkle the blood, and then afterwards you put the blood on the parts of the mitzvah. You then take oil and you put it also on on the earlobe, on the thumb, and on the toe, and so on. So he told me that Amar Rabbi Li Chilik Rabbi Yaakov belugin sounds like Rabbi Yaakov said that this argument is. He said that the loig shemen by the Mitzvah is very different than the case of Yom Kippur. In other words, over here, that is an argument whether you continue or you start again. But by the loig, if it's spilled out, there's no argument whatsoever. Everyone agrees by shemen you continue wherever you left off. Let's say that it spilled out the rest of the oil, you have to bring more oil, and you just continue. Let's say you did the thumbs, that you just go to the toes and so on. Because it says loig achas, I want 1 loig. I don't want 2 loigin. I don't want you to start again. I don't want just 1 continue. I'm thinking, like over here. So it says the Gemara. So over there, so by loig, everyone agrees that when it says loig, it means literally don't bring another oil, and so on. But so over here we have a machlekes how to read it. Chatos chitu. Says the Gemara. In other words, by B'Tzeira, everyone agree that you start again from scratch. No, the only reason why by Yom Kippur we say, Shimon Rabbi say no, that you continue because it says chatas achas, and they darshan chatas means chitu, 1 kapara. I don't want you to repeat anything. By over there, it doesn't say anywhere chitu, it says loigin. I don't want you to bring more oil. I don't want you to have 2 different oils in the middle. I don't want you to, and so on. So you could, over there, it means that you started, if you did 3, let's say you did the toe, you did the hand with 1 oil, and then you bring another oil for the toe, it's 2 different oils. I don't want that. So I want you have there, everyone agrees you have to start from scratch, so you're only using 1 oil to do the earlobe and the thumb and the toe. So everyone agrees when it comes to Mitzvah, you don't continue, you have to start again. because you only want you to use one jug of oil to do the entire thing. So he said that the loy is different. So is what there's no machlek is it? But Tanya, didn't we learn? No, some makes the matanas what happened? You did some of the matanas on the inside, and he did the sprinkling of blood, and then the leg, let's say, breaks. You have a leg achar. He brings another leg, the yascheh betchila matanas shebeichel, and he starts again from the beginning. But Abelazar and Shimon say, they clearly say that he just continues. It's exact same machlekes we have over here. It's exactly the same machlekes we have over there. So wait, tell me that over there that everyone agrees that you don't continue, you start again, because he says leg, only one leg. So what's going on? It says the Gemara that maybe misunderstood, or we misunderstood what we were saying. That continues. Gama matanis behinis. He completed it. Let's say the matanis and the behinis. But everyone agrees one thing, because after they put the oil on the earlobe and the thumb and the toe, and then if there's any leftover oil, it says if there's any left over, you place it on the head of the mitzvah. Everyone agrees if their oil spilled out then, that's on ma'akiv, and therefore you don't have to start again. So what was every saying? So the Gemara let us say, Li Shana Rabbi Yaakov Beleg Faket. Rabbi Yaakov said that the machlekes applies to like that. That could be that the same machlekes is also balegin as well, and then Faket just exactly the opposite. Says the Gemara. We learned you just said that the head dabbing on the head doesn't really matter. My time and why? What is it about the head that the pasuk says you got to put it on the head, and why you tell me it's not that important? Says the Gemara, it says min Hashem, and it says in the pasuk anything left over from the oil on the kohen has in his left hand, and he dabs his finger and he puts it on. Anything left in the oil he places he puts on the head. Is the word leftover sound like it's not important because it's only if you have leftover? El miativ, so they use the same expression by called mincha, and they said it's min mincha. We know that if you make a kmitza and there's nothing left in the mincha, got lost or something else, there's no shirayim, and the kmitza is no good either. Now, what does the pasuk say? It says over in the pasuk as well, the hanay said it. Anything left over in the mincha, you give it to Aaron. And you're telling me leftover is not important, and yet by mincha we know that the leftover, the rest of the mincha, the part that's not going to his back, is critical. Says the Gemara, according to this, when they said this, and yet it says the same word in the sedis. Says the Gemara, you're right. Shiny here is different. It says twice. It says in one pasuk, yeser Hashemin. If from the leftover the oil, you can be placed on the earlobe and so on and so forth. And then it says the honey said, and the leftovers of the leftovers you place on the head, and that already makes it more remote. That makes it already less critical. Sham that the mitzvah also has to be in carbon asham, and with the blood of the carbon asham, they also put it on his same thing on his ear and his thumb and his toe and so on. So what happened? You shechted the carbon asham, and by mistake you didn't have a mind to be asham. You had a mind to be another carbon. Now we know except the chattas and the carbon pesach. You had a beginning of Zvachim, we'll have a beginning of Zvachim. If you shechted shaloi l'shmoi, you had the wrong thing in mind. The animal itself was kosher as a carbon, but you have not fulfilled your obligation. So the question that follows: what about a shamet seder sheshachti? You shechted shaloi l'shmoi. You shechted, let's say, you had in mind it should be an oilo or shlamim, which means the animal itself was kosher. And so, what do you do now? Do you shecht another animal? What do you do right now? So we're saying that we had just had a machlekes on Meir Shimon, you start again or you continue. Bonu the machlekes on Meir Rabbi Lazar with Rabbi Shimon. Meir Damar says if you did not complete the avodah, so we say let's say you did 3 sprinkles and then suddenly the blood spilled out. Meir says we don't consider the first 3 sprinkles as proper sprinkles. You have to start all over again. So Meir says they have to bring more. You have to shecht again and start from scratch. So the same thing over here. Over here also, you started the activity, you shechted the animal, so that's kosher. So it's like you started it, and nevertheless, so even if you already placed some of the blood on the toe and everything else, it's as if nothing happened, and you have to bring a whole new carbon. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon that says if you did 3 sprinkles and then it fell out, and then it spilled out, you just continue. Wherever you stop, you continue going. Over here, there's nothing you can do. So you already did something, right? They hold whatever you did, you did. So you already brought up the carbon, you already did the carbon asham, but you can't complete it. Why? Because it says keves echad asham. It says only one. I don't want you to bring one carbon. I don't want you to bring 2 animals for the same activity. But whatever you did already counts. So here you have no choice. You cannot continue. In other words, by Yom Kippur, they said we don't say chatas achas, they say chitu achas. 1 kapara. I don't care how many animals you have to shech. But over here, it says in the pasuk keves echad. There's no way of getting around it. You only can have 1 sheep. So whatever activity you did already, you did. And now you could only continue, but you can't because this animal you didn't shecht it for the sake of an asham. So you're stuck. Maskele Rav Chizah says, what are you talking about? But Oisek, see, if it says in the pasuk, you should bring it as an asham. So therefore, because it said the word oisay, not only according to Rav Shimon Elazar, you have no breda, even according to Rav Meir, you're stuck. You cannot bring another animal. You said it could be another animal, start again. No, it says oisay, that which you shechted, you have to bring it up. And therefore, since you made a tenufa, since you already, because part of the avodah is you lift the animal with kever the leg of Shem, you did that already, fafal, oisay, that animal you have to continue with. So everyone agrees you're stuck. You cannot be mechaper. Kash is a problem. So talk about a kasha, but I don't know how to overcome the pasuk oisay, and so on. Tanya Kavas Rabbi Yechanan, but we learned like Rabbi Yechanan, Hasham mitzayde that we learned like Rabbi Yechanan who said Rabbi Yechanan started off saying that according to the Meir, you actually bring another carbon, even though it says oisay. I don't know how to deal with it, but you bring a carbon. I'll bring a brayso that said the same thing. We look at Rabbi Yechanan, Asham mitzayde, the carbon asham of a mitzayde, sheshachtu shleishma, you shechted, not having the right name in name, or you did not place the blood, let's say, on the bahinas, on the thumbs and the toe, that you bring it on the mizbeach with ton chasim misachim, and you bring all the libations. Normally, you bring with a carbon asham, but nevertheless, with tzarich asham achal achshir, the Mitzvah himself needs to bring another asham to be able to finish or end his tzaras. So what does it say clearly? So one of the cases are asham mitzayda you shechted with having the wrong name in mind. He says here, okay, you have to finish off as a carbon, as a shlomim, whatever it is, but you still bring another carbon for the mitzayda. So clearly, not like Rav Chizah that says according to everybody you're stuck, but like Rabbi Yechanan says that according to Rav Meir you can bring another carbon. Says what's Rav Chizah do with his brayso? So Rav Chizah said, it says oisay, everybody agrees you cannot bring another carbon. Rav Chizah amalach my tzarich, what the brayso meant was tzarich, you need to bring another carbon. Oh, but then let the kana, you're stuck. Does brayso say bring it? It just says you have to. Up then you have to. But you can't. Says the Gemara, where do you find such a din? With Tani Tana Tzarech, where do you find such a precedent that a Tana says do it, but Lapal you can't do it? So what's the point? Says the Gemara, yes, we do find it because by Tanya we learned Nazir Memoida. What do you do with a Nazir who's a balding? Part of the way of getting out of Nazir is by shaving his hair. And then you put it under the pot where you do the shlamim and so on. What happens if a Nazir is a balding? What do you do then? Beis Shammai says, nevertheless, tzarich avodas tar. You got to take a razor and go over his head. B'tzilayim ain't tzarich avodas tar. In that case, you don't have to. Rabbi Avina said, Beis Shammai. Taste is interesting. Says over here that in our Gemara, Beis Shammai says you need to take a razor, and B'tzil says you don't. In other Gemara, the same, but Isis quoted exactly the opposite. And Taisa brings a whole bunch of examples where the Gemara in one place quotes the Brisa with opinions in one way, and in another place the Gemara quotes it exactly the opposite. And the Taisa says, how do you deal with that? So he says, imagine every time you do that, it's an Ikad Amri. It's not the Gemara is contradicting itself. It's 2 different versions of what actually took place in the Beis HaMedrash. Ravina said, Beis Shammai tzarich. What does Beis Shammai mean when he says you have to build a part? How do you take a razor and cut hair? There's no hair. You're bald. Tzarich ve'ein le'takana. What he means is you have to, but you can't. So you see clearly from here that you find a concept where the Brisa tells you to do something even though you can't. Upliga drapadas. But this Ravina's pshat argues drapadas. Drapadas says Beis Shammai and Rabbi Elazar amru davar echad. That Beis Shammai and Rabbi Elazar both say something. When they say you have to do something, there is a remedy. even though apparently there's no remedy, there is a remedy. Not that tzaddik leila tekana, tzaddik and yesha tekana. Like what? Beishamad Amnon, you take the razor, you go over your head, even though there's no hair there, it doesn't matter. You go over your head as if there was hair there. And the Rabbi Lazar, the same thing. Time we learned, ain't boyin yad boyin rego. What do you do for koyin? Someone's a mitzvah doesn't have a thumb, doesn't have a toe. So one opinion says, ain't like tahare lamas. He's stuck as a mitzvah forever, or he can never completely purify himself. And Rabbi Lazar, noisin al mekoyim v'yaitzer. Rabbi Lazar says, place it where the thumb would have been, place it where the toe would have been, and the yaitzer would have been yaitzer, and would be yaitzer. Says the Gemara. Gemara continues. Rab Shimon Oimer imnosan al shasmol yatzer. Rab Shimon says, I have another solution over there. Put it on your left side. But what do we see that Rabbi Lazar says? Sarich the yesh takana. You have to go through the exercise, and there's a way of doing it. So therefore, we don't have a precedent where we say that, and you want to say that when it says over there, you Rav Chizah want to say what Beishamai, when you want to say on top of the page, bring another Asham B'Tzeidah, but too bad you can't do it. There's no precedent for that. Don't bring the Beishamai, because Beishamai holds you could do it. You can still go with the razor over your head. Says the Gemara further, regarding the Mitzvah, it says, you should take from the blood of the Asham and you put it on the person. Yochel, I would have thought, Bekli. When you take the blood of the Asham, you put it on the Mizbech, you take the blood of the Asham, you put it on the Klei. I would have thought, Yochel, Bekli, I would have thought that just like on the Mizbech, you use a vessel to take the blood, so too, when the Kohen wants to take blood and put it on the Mitzvah, you take it with a Keli. You apply with your hand. Just like when you play something, you're using the finger itself, the hand itself. So too, so the Chatchila, when he takes the blood, he should take it not in the keli, but in his left hand. He has it in his hand. He has the blood. Okay, so since when you dab it on the mitzvah himself, you have the blood in your hand, and you take with your right finger and you place it on the mitzvah. So maybe the same thing applies to the blood you're going to sprinkle on his bech. Says another passage, kikachatas kahashamu. Ma chatas, that the asham is compared to a chatas. In what way are they compared? Ma chatas, like a chatas to unikli. You bring the blood over with a keli to the mizbech. Af asham, also an asham. Ton kli, you'd need a vessel. What do we conclude from there? What do you say? Asham Mitzayda, Shnei Kainim Makabim is Damai. So by Asham Mitzayda, there are two Kainim standing there to receive his blood. Echad Biyad, one of them takes it and scoops it in his hand because they can use that to dab it on the Mitzayda. And the Echad Bekei, another one takes it in the Keli because that's the blood you're going to use to put on the Mizbech. Zesh Kibul Bekeli, the blood, the Kain who received the blood inside the Keli, Bola Eitzim Mizbech. He's the one who goes to the Mizbeach and he throws it on the corners of Mizbeach. The Zesh Kibul Biyad, another Kain who received it in his hand, is Bola Eitzim Mitzayda. He's the one who goes to the Mitzayda and places it onto the Mitzayda. Says the Gemara. So we learned in the Mishnah that the blood spills out, you have to shech another carbon. So what happens now? Suddenly you have two parts. Or let's say the blood of the goat poured out, you have two seirim. And the question is, first of all, what do you do with let's say the extra part? You have a second part. But the seirim is even worse. Because remember, we learned that by seirim, if you have to shecht another seir for the chatas, you have to start again and bring another seir mishtalech as well. There's one opinion that says, no, you can still use the same seir mishtalech. The other opinion says, no, you have to make a girdle first. You always have to have a set of two, as we'll see in the next page. So what happens to all these extra animals? So tell us, we learned over there, the kula, that all of these, no matter how many parim end up shechting, all of them have the same din. All of them. So what they do is they take the parim and they would take it outside the base of Mikdash and they burn it. And it says the people who carried it, they become tamei. So therefore, all the bulls and all the goats that it says, the blood spilled out, you have to shecht another bull or another goat, and so on and so forth. So it says that the kohanim who are involved in taking them outside the base of Mikdash and burning it, and the clothes become tamei. Anyone who's involved in burning it. So it says that any of these animals, every kohen who carried every one of these animals, all of them have to be burnt outside. All of them have the same din. All the kohen involved in burning all the different bulls, their clothes become tamei. When it's rough in a base of Deshin, all of them get burnt on the base of Deshin, which is outside of the camp, totally outside the base of Mikdash, and so on. David Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon. The Chachamim say no. Ein metamin begodim ve'ein nisrafes Deshin ela achren. Only. So what happened was you started. Let's say you had three bulls. You did one bull, you completed Avodah Kedoshim, and then in the middle of the activity of the Heichal, it died. So you had to shech another one. Then you did the activities of the heichel. But the first bull did something also. The first bull did the kodesh. The second bull finished the heichel, and then when you started doing the by the bech, you spilled out the blood again, and then you have to shecht another animal. So now you have three parim. So which the Chachamim say no, only one par is considered the most pivotal, and which one is that? So it says in the last one. Ein mitamin avagodim, ein elo ha'ach in the last one. Why the last one? Hoyil the gama by kapara. That completes the job. That's the one that gets all the credit, because and therefore that's the last one. Boim Nachman kama seidim mishalech. That's a question. Okay, remember you have when it comes to the goats, a different story, because every time you shet a new goat for the chatas, you have to also have another goidel and go through the exercise. You have another seira mishtalech. So kama seira mishtalech. So what happens? Now you have, let's say, you killed three goats. The same thing happened. You kept the spilling out the blood. So you have three goats. So you have now three goats to be sent off the cliff. Which one gets sent off the cliff? So he says here. So what do? You throw all three off the cliff? What do you do? You don't send all three off. You only do one. You think the whole stada, the whole flock gets thrown off. So only one gets sent off. So Rabbi said back to Nachman, how can we learn a minute ago when it comes to the bulls that or the other goat, you take all three goats and you burn them outside the base of English? Why? The whole flock has to be burnt. I mean, the same logic you're telling me that you don't have to throw off the cliff all the goats, only one. The same thing should apply also to the burning. Why is it that the seira chatas or the parachatas, all of the bulls are taken outside and burnt? Why? You burn the whole flock. Says the Gemara, me dummy. So Nachman goes back to this, but what are you talking about? Like, see, it doesn't say oisai when it comes to the burning of the para, burning of the goat outside over there. It doesn't say anywhere only oisai, only one. But hoch over here, when it says over here by the Azazel, it says in the pasuk oisai. It says in the pasuk l'shaleach oisai l'Azazel. Clearly, the Torah says only one animal gets thrown off the Azazel, not three. Says Gemara, Itmar, we learned a puppy must made a puppy named Rabba. So which one now do we throw off the cliff? The first one, second, the third. Which one is going off the cliff? When it comes to burning, the Chacham say before, the one that give the Gemara kapara. But here nothing happened yet. You didn't do any kapara yet. You have three goats there standing and waiting, milling it out, and one of them you throw off the cliff. Which one? So the puppy says in the name of Rabba Rishon Mishalech. It's the very first one that you send off the cliff. And what Absimi Mashmei the Rabba, Absimi the name of Rabba says Acher Mishalech. It's the last one that you send off the cliff. So the Gemara, let's finish the pedigree of mine. So I understand why the last one. Since this is connected to the other goat, which is the main one, the one that completed, like Chacham said before, the one that completes the kapara is the main one. So over here also, the one that, so it makes sense that it's matching pair. The last one is the one that goes off the cliff, because the Chacham only one gets burned, not all three, only one gets burnt, and that is the last one. So to the goat that gets thrown off the cliff. So what's the logic of the first one? What does he hold? So when it says it says always the first one that you appointed, that's to be the one going. Hi, Rabbi Yossi. Where does Rabbi Yossi say that? Rabbi Yossi, when it comes to the boxes where they could put money in, and remember for the matzah the shekel, they had 3 boxes throughout the year, and you would put olive based gimel on it. Rabbi Yossi says shalosh kupas, you had 3 boxes, and each box was able to contain 3 saw. They used to use that to set aside the lishcha by Kosovo is written Aleph Beis Gimel. Why did it say Aleph Beis Gimel? Leida Ezim Handit Mauritian, so you should know which one is the first one. So you should know that which one is the one that you should use first. So we see Lahavi Rishon Shemitza Berishon basically clearly because we want you to use box number 1. The reason simply you first filled up box number 1 and box number 2 wasn't ready yet. That's why we use box number 1. It's not like in our case here that all 3 animals are there ready to be sent and how do you know which one to sow. Rabbi Yossi is not talking about a case where all 3 are suitable. Rabbi Yossi the Pesach, the original current Pesach, the time you learn. Hamafrish Pischai, somebody set aside a current Pesach and then already lost it. He set aside another one. When it came Chatzais, Erev Pesach, you have now two animals that are both suitable. Which one should you use, the second or the first? You found the first one, they're both standing there. You have a choice. They're both ready, suitable. Choose whichever one you want. Rabbi Yossi says mitzvah b'rishon. You should always take the first one. The im hoya sheni muvchem menor. The second one's a nicer animal than yiviyenu. So Rabbi Yossi says you take the first one, and that's why the puppy says in the name of Rava that you take the first goat and you put that